What's going on YouTube? So this week we're actually going to be putting together two lineups. I'm going to do it a little different this week. The reason I'm doing this is because last week I put together one lineup. I felt like, you can never guarantee anything in this game. So I'm going to put two lineups together, slightly different lineups on two different stacks, give you some options to look at, and to kind of show you where my frame of mind is when I'm building my lineups. So these are two stacks and two lineups that I'll be running heavily, both in single entry, quarter arcades, big bet entries, and just all GPP. Now you can run these in cash lineups. For the most part, they're pretty safe with a high floor, high ceiling output here. So I would say if you want to run them in cash, by all means. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first one we're going to be going with is our Andrew Luck stack. Now, if you notice in week 7, some of the biggest millionaire, winners and 100,000 plus winners were running Andrew Luck stacks with your boy T.Y. Hilton. So T.Y. Hilton, I don't know why he's not rated one of the highest price wide receivers. When you look at his production, he puts up phenomenal numbers. Only 4 touchdowns on the season, but he is probably one of the highest targeted wide receivers, aside from one other that we'll talk about here shortly. But he's just getting tons and tons of targets. And the reason for that, Indy's defense is garbage. They rely on their offense 100%. And without T.Y. going deep, they have no shot at winning. So they're going to feed him the ball, whether it's two-man coverage, one-on-one. Doesn't matter what it is. They're going to shoot it towards him and let him make plays. And numbers don't lie. I mean, he's already had 3 games over 100, almost 200 yards on 2 of the 3, and right on the line of 100 on the 4th one. So putting up super numbers. 100% I'm on T.Y. Hilton heavy this week. So that completes not completes, but there's our stack. And we're also going to throw in one other guy here, which I'm sure you're going to see a lot. He's probably going to have reasonably high ownership, is Jack Doyle. Doyle, as you can see over the last 2 weeks, is slowly starting to ramp up his usage. They realize that they need more weapons than just T.Y. on the receiving core. So he has now jumped up to the number 2 position when it comes to receiving on Indy. They're going against a real porous Kansas City defense. I don't suspect Kansas City is going to shut them down all that much on the tight end position. They're going to be focusing their attention on T.Y., which, like I said, he's still going to eat just given the amount of usage that he has per game. So that's going to round off our Indy Kansas City stack. Now we're going to jump into some of the other positions, and at running back, we're going with Jacquizz Rodgers. Now, as far as I know, Doug Martin is going to be out. He did have a setback with his hamstring, which, from what I'm reading, is not going to be ready to go come this weekend. I know it's a few days out, so we'll keep an eye on that. If for some reason he starts, I'll probably still run Rodgers, just considering how important hamstrings and hamstring injuries are to a running back. I still think they'll have to lighten his load a little bit, gives Rodgers some upside, and if he does play, it'll actually help our ownership percentage for GPP as well. So I really like Rodgers this week. And next is the guy who's definitely stolen the workhorse position from Jamal Charles, and that's Spencer Ware. If you've noticed over the last few weeks, Ware just gets all the work. I mean, 17, 24, 13, 20. I mean, this is with Jamal Charles back in the lineup, and he's just getting everything. I mean, they rely on Ware. He's definitely stolen the starting position. Jamal Charles will have a little work in there, maybe have some upside as a possible, breakout touchdown opportunity. But when you're talking workload and consistency, I can't see him having any better matchup. Plus, they're going against one of the bottom 5, rush defenses, which is Indy. And this is just kind of to go along with the stack. I feel like Indy's going to have to pass a lot. Kansas City's going to have to rely on the run game. You're capturing all the goodness within that matchup. And let's be, at the end of the day, I don't think Kansas City's defense is really that great, so it might be a shootout as well, which opens up a lot of opportunity for everybody. Let's go down to wide receiver, and we're going to go with our second stud or our chalky play of the week. One of the top wide receivers against one of the worst defenses, Mike Evans against Oakland. Now, they are playing at home. Doesn't make much of a difference. Evans is always good no matter where he plays. Tons of targets. Like I said, when you're looking at GPP plays, you're looking at high upside, high floor, especially in Draftkings, which is what I build my lineups for. you got to look at guys that get tons of targets. It's a 1-point PPR. If your guy's not getting 8 to 10 targets, unless you're really banking on touchdowns, which is more of a FanDuel strategy, you really need to get guys who get a lot of targets and are going to have a lot of opportunity to eat when it comes to receptions. And Mike Evans, always a safe pick, even on a bad week. If you look at his numbers, 19 points, 10 points is his floor, and 32 points is a ceiling. I'll take that all day. And there's a lot of studs this week, so I think more people will be on Julio, Brandon Marshall against Cleveland. Cooper's kind of fallen off. Fitzgerald is going to get a lot of usage. We'll talk about him in our next lineup. But we're going to move on down to a little bit of value here, and we're going with Michael Thomas. So New Orleans, Seattle. This is really juicy of a matchup. For one, they're at New Orleans. Breeze generally plays better at home. Not to say he always does, because Breeze is Breeze, but everyone's going to have their attention on the number one wide receiver for Seattle. They're going to be going after Cooks. They're going to put, who's that trash-talking tool bag? Richard Sherman. Sorry, drew a blank there. So Richard Sherman will definitely be on Cooks. I don't expect a lot of attention to be on Michael Thomas. So I think he's going to get blunt of the carries. I think he's going to, receptions, just because he's going to have more opportunity of being open. 13 targets last week against Kansas City, and I just don't see him having an off game, especially considering Cooks is going to be a huge decoy for him. So Michael Thomas definitely going to be my low to mid-range value play in that position. Now we're going to go to another tight end. I know we're going to be running dual tight ends. But Gary Barnidge, if you remember last season, Barnidge went off. He's finally getting into a rhythm in that Cleveland offense. I know they're in shambles with not knowing who their quarterback is going to be just yet. But at the same time, if you look at his receptions, 5, 7, 8, he's getting consistent usage. For a tight end, that's pretty decent. He's catching most of what's thrown his way. No touchdown yet on the season, but if you look at his numbers, he's getting 4x his value, so 12 points or so, in 3 of the last 4, almost all 4 of his last 4 games, without a single touchdown. That's really good usage. At $3,200, $3,300, you can't go wrong there. So we are running light or low-end value plays for the tight end position, but I feel like this is going to differentiate us from a lot of people who are going to be stacking high-end players. They may be going for your Gronkowskis or whatever they're going to be going for in the tight end position. This is going to free up some of that. And then we're going to go slightly value, but we're going to go Arizona Cardinals against Carolina. Now, Carolina has not been great this year. Cam Newton just not looking like himself. I don't know if it was the concussion. I don't know if it's the fact that he really doesn't have many weapons anymore that he can rely on consistently. Their running back situation has been anything but perfect. So it's proving more difficult. Arizona's playing really good defense right now. 20 sacks on the season, 5 fumble recoveries, 9 interceptions. They're just putting up good numbers. At $2,700, they're the best value for this week. And, they're playing at Carolina, but I still don't see Cam Newton doing much. Even if they score a couple touchdowns, Arizona should make value, no problem. So that's going to be the lineup that I'm running this week. If you want to lock it in, we'll run it through real quick. Andrew Luck, Jacquizz Rodgers, Spencer Ware, T.Y. Hilton, Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Jack Doyle, Gary Barnidge, and Cardinals D. All right, so let's move on to the next lineup. This is going to be my other stack of the week. And we're going to go with Jameis Winston. Now, this is going to be more of our value QB stack. But Jameis Winston going up against one of the bottom 5 defenses against the pass. Horrible against the run as well, so they're pretty much easy to pick off in a number of ways. And I just feel like Tampa Bay, they've went up against San Francisco, who I think, and that's my team, but I think they have a better defense overall than Oakland does. So I don't see any reason why Jameis Winston isn't going to just feed the ball all over the field, and he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. I think he may even be good for 1 rushing touchdown against Oakland if he's in the right position. But Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, definitely a favorite of mine this week. So we're going to jump to running back, and I'm going with Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke. So he is going against arguably one of the best defenses so far this season. Philly has definitely shown up. But let's be honest, Philly hasn't faced a guy like Zeke. He I mean, he's almost matchup proof if you look at him every week. The guy just puts up phenomenal numbers. He went against Green Bay, one of the best defenses against the run this season so far, and he put up 157 rushing yards on 28 attempts and another 17 yards passing or receiving. 20 plus points over the last 4 games. Early in the season, I think he was just trying to get into a rhythm. Keep in mind, he was a rookie. He had to kind of get into his groove, but man, when he found it, he's been destroying defenses left and right. And honestly, Cowboys need him more than anything. Now, there is rumors that Dez Bryant might be back this week. If he is back, that's only going to make Ezekiel's numbers go sky high because they're going to have to open that box. They're going to have to cover Dez Bryant. They also have Cole Beasley. I mean, Terrence Williams. They're going to have a lot of receiving options. Dak Prescott's been playing really good, which is making it even better for Zeke because they can't just close the box up and focus on the run. So definitely think Zeke's going to do really well this week. And I'm going to stick with Ware in this stack as well. He's just too safe of a play against Indy's defense. I think he's going to go off. Good for 2, maybe even 3 touchdowns this week against absolutely porous Indy D. And we're going to jump over to another wide receiver now, Larry Fitzgerald. Now, Larry Fitzgerald going against horrible Carolina secondary. Now, I know the quarterback situation in Arizona is anything but great. On a good day, it's garbage, I guess you can put it. But Fitzgerald's the number 1 target. I mean, he's going to get the most targets out of that team. San Francisco did really good. Jets secondary, they have some defense, so I won't just knock on them. Seattle, way better defense right now than the Jets have, and he put up 70 yards on 9 receptions, 14 targets. Like I said earlier, you got to focus on guys who get targets. Even if the matchup isn't the best, if the usage is there, the upside is there, and the floor will be high. You can always go with the low ownership, contrarian picks and hope for the best, but when you're playing GPP, you also have to make sure that you have a high ceiling because you need those points. I mean, GPP, you don't cash at 140. It's not like a 50-50 where you can have a garbage lineup and still make a little money. I mean, if you're trying to go for the big money, you've got to get guys with really high ceilings that can get you those 20, 30 points if they can, and not the guys who may only get you 4 or 5 points. Now, sometimes that happens, but you do want to differentiate your lineups, and how you do that is how you mix and match players. So last week, Ty Montgomery for Green Bay went absolutely ham. I think his ownership is going to skyrocket, probably in the upwards of 30% or more. But someone who's consistently flying under the radar, but I think is going to continue to get quite a few targets, especially in what could be a pretty big shootout this week, is Davante Adams. Atlanta's offense is lethal. They pass a ton. They're probably one of the most explosive offenses right now between Freeman and Coleman and Julio Jones. They just have Jacob Tamme. They have a lot of options to pass to. So I feel like this is going to be a shootout. Coleman, I hear, might be out this week. And if he is, they're going to rely solely on one running back for the most part, which is going to mean they're going to pass more. Green Bay, they're going to have to answer that with more passing as well because their running back is fat as shit. So anyways, Davante Adams, going to get the usage there. Last week, I think, was a little glimpse of what we should expect moving forward. A lot more targets. They're trying to shut down Cobb, defenses are, which means Adams and Montgomery are going to have to do, they're going to have to step up and do their part. And I really think Adams this week is a good play. Tight end here, we're going to go with Fedorowicz for Houston. So last night, they were playing Denver. Denver has an amazing defense, so I'm not going to hold it against them, but still 5 receptions, 35 yards on 7 targets. He's probably one of the most consistent receivers on that team. Fuller has been dropping everything thrown his way. DeAndre Hopkins is just too popular when it comes to coverage, so he's shut down a lot of the time, which leaves your tight end. You finally got a healthy tight end and a really poor quarterback. Those two go hand in hand, so so definitely I'm running with Fedorowicz this week. And then the other one I'm going to run with is Anquan Bolden, my fellow Niner, switched Detroit. I think a lot of people will be on Golden Tate this week. I don't know what's gotten people all excited about Tate. His numbers aren't that great. He's a subpar wide receiver. He shined for a little while last season because they were shutting down Megatron. He had to do well. I mean, he was the only option. But now they've got Anquan Bolden. He's a veteran. He's been around the league for a long time. Yes, he was on the Niners, but no longer. And Detroit needs him. They realize he's a consistent pass catcher. He's reliable. He's good in the end zone. He's getting a lot of red zone targets. And Anquan Bolden, I think, is going to do really well this week. Houston's defense did prove decent, but Trevor Siemian, who's really a horrible quarterback, picked apart Houston last night. I mean, they found ways to score touchdowns, and I feel like Detroit's going to have a shot to do that as well this week. And Stafford, he finds ways to win games, or at least make it a challenging game. And we're going to stick with Arizona on this lineup as well. I just like the matchup with Carolina. So running back through, we're going to say Jameis Winston stacked with Mike Evans, running in Zeke, Spencer Ware, Larry Fitz, Devontae Adams, Fedorowicz, Anquan Bolden, and the Cardinals defense. So those are my lineups this week. If you got any questions, feel free to comment. If you like my videos, smash the like button, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll be putting 2 lineups together from now on, probably, just to give you some options and let you know what my frame of mind is week to week. Generally, I play the main slate unless I like the Thursday game. Then I may play the Thursday through Sunday full slate. But this week, I'm mainly focusing on the Sunday main slate. So anyways, appreciate you watching my videos. Later.